All right, if we can go ahead and get started. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our Ask the Experts speaker series. This morning's presentation will be recorded and will be available for viewing later on our YouTube channel. And if you have any questions during the reporting, you can put them in the chat box and we will be able to answer your questions after the talk. This morning, we have the pleasure of being joined for a joint presentation by Karen Wasserman and Ann Muskoff. Karen Wasserman is an aging life care manager and director of Your Elder Experts, which is a program of Jewish Family and Children's Services. She has over 30 years of experience guiding and supporting older adults and people with chronic illness as they navigate changing and challenging life experiences. Ann Muskoff is an occupational therapist and director of the Charlotte and Richard Okono Parkinson's Family Support Program at Jewish Family and Children's Service. She has over 20 years of experience, most recently over a decade in home health care, and has always had a passion for helping people affected by Parkinson's to live a meaningful life. Thank you very much for joining us this morning, Ann and Karen, and we'll turn it over to you.
Well, thank you so much for having us. Are you seeing my slideshow? There we go.
Yes.
Okay, so yes, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. I've been an attendee for many years, and so it's nice to be on the other side as well. I hope I can share something for everyone in this talk that gives you a takeaway of how to manage your Parkinson's outside the clinic. So first, to give context for my presentation, I just want to explain what occupational therapy is. So occupational therapy cares about you and your quality of life. It's helping people with health challenges to participate in daily life to the fullest, which means that it's holistic. And we're also looking at the intersection of the environment, the individual, and the task to help you achieve your goals. So in the clinic, you get your diagnosis and your prescription, and then what? Hopefully your movement disorder specialist takes the time to get to know you and guides you into living well with Parkinson's and all the resources out there. But we do understand that their time is limited and their primary focus is on you, your medical status, and managing your symptoms. So as an occupational therapist, I'm interested in your day-to-day living with Parkinson's. And hopefully we can all be like Dwight in the office and say, I'm ready to face any challenges that might be foolish enough to face me. So today, Karen and I will be sharing tips on how to live your best life and stay in the saddle, to be in control and to live your life well with Parkinson's outside the clinic. We'll be covering things like setting goals, how to build your team and learning to advocate for yourself, establish and maintaining healthy habits, finding and utilizing supports, establish and reviewing plans for the future, and embracing adaptations. So first, with your goals, I encourage you all to take a moment to take inventory. Think about what brings you joy. What do you value? What does a good day look like to you? Imagine you're writing a bio for your class reunion. What does it say? And then post these in a prominent location. Perhaps you want to use a journal. Perhaps you want to revisit them before your appointments with your movement disorder specialist. But most importantly, share them. Share them with your friends and family and make them a part of your team because they're the most important part. Talk about your goals. So then when it comes to building your team, hopefully all of this is set up, but it's never too late. So you want to look for physical, occupational, and speech therapists who have experience with Parkinson's to help you live well with Parkinson's. How to find them. So ask around. Hopefully your movement disorder specialist has referrals, but your fellow, the community of Parkinson's, look for caregivers and other people you can ask. They're a great resource. As well, there are several Parkinson's specific training programs, including LSVT Global, Power Moves, and the Parkinson's Voice Project. Their websites include directories of therapists who've gone through their specialized training, and that's a great resource as well. Next, I encourage you to find a mental health clinician. As we know, anxiety and depression can affect many people with Parkinson's. And JFNCS offers Mental Health Connect, which is a phone number you can call to help get a referral for a mental health clinician. In essence, we don't want you to wait for the symptoms to dictate your need for help. Stay in the saddle by being on top of them. And also plan to have regular checkups with allied health professionals, not just your movement disorders specialist every 6 months, but go ahead and plan for checkups with physical, occupational, and speech therapy to make sure you're on track to meet your goals. Next, as I like to say, the I's habits. So the healthy habits you want to develop. Hopefully you've already completed courses of therapy, but I strongly encourage you to find programs in the community to help you stay motivated, to help you stay active, and help you stay accountable. The first, of course, is the exercise. JF&CS offers dance to help with coordination and balance, and chorus for your voice and swallowing. As well, Wellness Works offers a wonderful array of programs, including rock steady boxing, yoga, Tai Chi, boot camp. You've seen many of these, and there's just a wonderful plethora of activities. I'd encourage you to find whatever helps you to stay moving and whatever inspires you to keep going. The second I's is to socialize. So find a group. As I said, the exercise group. Support groups are very helpful. It can be a support group with other people with Parkinson's, care partner support groups, or even adult child support groups that we offer. Or it may be a social group, like a book club or a game, card games, a faith-based group, things like that. So important to keep those connections. And if you say, I'm not really a group person, well, at least even plan a regular meetup with a friend. It helps you to get out of the house and to stay socially connected. And the third I's is to ritualize. So really habits. These are things to help you support good sleep, your cognitive health, but also your spiritual and emotional well-being. I'd really encourage you to take a moment to think about weekly, daily, monthly, annual, whatever traditions you might have with your friends and family that give you that strong sense of grounding. Then next I'll talk about embracing adaptations. So the occupational therapy terminology is called energy conservation, and says it's basically about spending energy on what's important to you. First things first. Of course, it's cooler just to say you have some life hacks. But embracing adaptations and making these changes is helpful for keeping you in the saddle. Again, giving you more control to prevent. So first, I'll talk a little bit about home adaptations for your safety. I strongly encourage you to get a home safety evaluation. This can be done through home health care, physical or occupational therapy, either Medicare Part A if you're homebound or Part B if you're not. As well, we offer through your elder experts private pay home safety evaluations. And you may want to try engaging a certified aging in place specialist if you're looking to make more renovations. And we can refer you to organizations in the Boston area, such as Houseworks or Operation Independence, for example. I'd also strongly encourage you to rethink about how things are organized. You want to make sure that you're able to reach them and access them in a way that's not going to put you at risk for falls. Decluttering is a huge one. It's a problem a lot of people have. You're not alone. And it's also, you're not alone if it's hard. There's people you can get to help. It could be a neighbor, a friend, a family member, or even a professional organizer. And finally, I'd encourage you to think about implementing smart home technology. It can be helpful for safety and door monitors and light monitors and things like that. If you get used to the technology now, you will appreciate it even more when you need it most. A little more specifically looking at home adaptations, I encourage you to look at how your furniture is set up. So you want to avoid tight spaces and tricky maneuvers, especially if you need to use a walker or assistive device. Goldilocks height surfaces, such as a bed. You don't want something too low that you can't get up or too high that you slip off the edge. So think about your chairs having good armrests and a good height. Floors. Of course, rugs can be tricky. It's a kind of a hot button topic for home safety. You want to be careful, especially if they're thick, as they could be a trip hazard, or thin because they can wrinkle. And of course, you want to prevent them from sliding. So it's important to really consider, is this rug functional? Is it serve a purpose or is it decorative? And you may need to take up some of those rugs. You also want to make sure you have open wide pathways and eliminate thresholds when possible, especially as you may encounter more of the challenges around freezing and walking. It's also important to look at your stairs, not only getting inside into your home, but also once within the home. Ideally, you'll have railings on both sides, that they're well lit and not having a lot of shadows, and that you're marking the edge of each step. This is really important for safety on stairs. You may even consider a chair lift. And bathrooms, grab bars are key, a comfort height toilet, shower chair, things like this are really considered universal design. They are things that can benefit all members of your household, whether or not they have disabilities. And finally, lighting is very key for safety, and I'll be talking a little bit more about that in a minute. So getting back to occupational therapy and some specific examples of things you can do to adapt your environment or task, or even how you do things. Thinking first about getting up in the morning. Here's pictured a bed rail. This can be really helpful for Parkinson's with that rigidity and stiffness in the trunk to get out of bed in the morning to help with rolling. You can also address via your technique, bending your knees, using momentum and pulling with your arms on the bed rail. You may find that bedding in pajamas can make a big difference if it's a lightweight or a silky to move more easily. You want to consider your footwear that has a rubber sole and a heel on it. And of course, safety first. So think about the things that are next to your bed. A touch lamp, for example, that you can turn on easily just by reaching for it. For keeping water and medications next to your bed. And of course, slow transitions if you're having troubles with your blood pressure. Of course, just disclaimer, these may not be good for everyone, and it's always helpful to have an occupational therapist or physical therapist consult with you. Next, when you think about getting ready in the morning, think about things like organizing your clothes by outfit. That way you only have to go to one place to reach a whole outfit instead of 3 or 4 different places. You may want to dress your stiffer side first. And look at adaptive clothing, such as Velcro or magnetic closures. Note that if you do have deep brain stimulation, that you should check with your doctors first before using magnets. There's a lot of adaptive equipment out there as well that can be helpful. Things such as a button hook, a reacher, a shoehorn, elastic shoelaces, and Velcro closures. And here's an example of a button hook, for example. It's called a pocket dresser. You can find it on Amazon. As well, there's some specific examples of adaptive clothing, such as Buck and Buck or Silverts, the Magna Ready. Tommy Hilfiger has put out a line more recently with this Velcro and magnetic fly, for example, to make it easier for toileting. And Kizik shoes are another brand that can be helpful to just slip in more easily and the heel pops back up. So look for a lot of different options out there. When it comes to the bathroom, some things to think about to adapt and embrace those changes. Things like toilet railings or raised toilet seats, shower chairs. If any of you were at the Michael J. Fox talk last weekend, the expo, Larry Russell told a story of how his occupational therapist was reviewing his day. He wasn't having a lot of energy for the day. And she said, a shower actually takes a lot of your energy. Why don't you try a chair? And he said, it's his new favorite piece of equipment. So try a shower chair. You might actually like it. Helps with shaving legs too, if you still do that. An electric razor or toothbrush can be helpful, flossers and water picks, even a bath mitt, or soap on a rope if you have trouble with dropping your soap, for example. You can install motion sensor soap pumps and touch faucets, as well as non-skid mats. And here are some examples of these bath mitts and even nail clippers, for example, that may make it easier for you in the bathroom. Next, we've all survived the great toilet paper shortage of 2020. So hopefully you're familiar with bidets that can be helpful for hygiene. Squatty potty can be helpful for those experiencing constipation with Parkinson's, which is very common. And even a toilet aid to help with wiping if you have the stiffness in the shoulders and it's difficult to reach. Medications. Hopefully a lot of these are also familiar, but as a reminder, always take your medication with a full glass of water to help the pills absorb in your small intestine, and try to take it on an empty stomach. Another key is the Parkinson's Foundation hospitalization kit. This is a self-advocacy tool in case you are hospitalized, and it's free on their website for download, or you can pay for shipping and get a hard copy. And it's a great advocacy tool in terms of your medications when you're hospitalized. As well, there's many different programs out there for helping you to remember to take your medications on a schedule, things such as the e-pill, pill pack, which is pre-filled for each time of the day, and smartphone alarms. During one of the sessions last weekend as well, it was 11 o'clock and about 6 alarms went off, and I knew I was with my people. And as well, here's another example of a pill pouch, something you can squeeze. So when you're out and about and you need to take your pills, you can bring that along, and it's a little bit easier with the fine motor coordination. Moving on, in the kitchen, think about things like sitting to prepare your food, using pre-cut produce, or again, look at your goals. Maybe you just need to open an Uber Eats or DoorDash account. Maybe that's where your priority lies. If you have trouble with eating, the tremor and food falling off, you may be able to use a pasta bowl or pie plate to scoop your food onto a utensil more easily, or even eating a salad in a pita or a lavash bread. If you have tremors, again, with spilling, travel cups with a built-in straw can be helpful, or a lid. There's also more sophisticated technology called Liftware Steady that detects a tremor and counterbalances it to keep food on the utensil a little bit more. Finally, I just, again, encourage you to reorganize. Think about what appliances you really use, what dishes you really use, and then put them in the most accessible places in your kitchen. Lazy Susans, wire shelves, things like this can be really helpful for organizing your kitchen. Back to chopping, there are a lot of adaptations. For example, this adaptive cutting board that helps hold things if you have more trouble on one side and you're worried about cutting yourself. There are these gadgets to help chop vegetables. Certainly a food processor can be helpful and quick. Scissors, if you've ever cut your pizza with the scissors, that's a nice, easy way to go. And then there's gloves you can wear that keep you from getting hurt from a knife. So all these things can be helpful adaptations. And then because everything, containers are often a nemesis for all of us, I just wanted to show you a few gadgets that may be helpful in the kitchen. There's something called a robo twist and one touch, electric can opener. You put it on the jar or the can, press the button and let it go. As well, for these pesky sort of rigid plastic containers, there's something called Zip It, which is battery powered and helps to open the containers more easily. There are things like a pull ring can opener, a church key, as I know it, can help with takeout containers. I've been able to demonstrate that before. There are certainly plastic bottle openers. And a personal favorite of mine is the needle nose pliers. So those, rigid salad containers with the piece that you have to tear off can be really easy with the needle nose pliers. Moving on to mobility. Hopefully you're familiar with things like the U-step walker and the laser cane. These are specifically designed for people with Parkinson's who experience freezing episodes that can help them to be better with walking. Walking poles may be something that you find helpful. Certainly raised seats and cushions, lift seats, things like that can be helpful for getting up from chairs if that's more difficult for you. Furniture risers as well, putting blocks under a couch or a bed to raise it up may be helpful. Certainly technique is important, making sure you're shifting your weight, that you're putting your nose over your toes, as we like to say in the therapy world. And my personal favorite is a song and dance. So music has been shown to really be helpful with people with Parkinson's for the beat to move to. And sometimes, imagining choreography can access different neural circuits to help to move. So dance can be a wonderful way to move. Once you're out of the house, just a few other things to keep in mind. A handy bar is something that fits in the latches, so it can help you maneuver out of the car. If it's easier to use a pulling motion, there's a car caddy that you can put over the door frame like that, or a swivel seat can help to rotate into the car, as well as sometimes a trash bag actually can work just as well. And lighting is very important due to the visual changes associated with Parkinson's. So things that are easy, such as motion sensor night lights, touch lamps, as I mentioned before, push button lights. So in a closet or something that has poor lighting, you can just stick it to the wall, it's battery operated, and you push it to get more light in that area. Certainly remote controlled outlets can be an option. And don't forget about LED bulbs that you don't have to change, but once in a lifetime. They may be free with your energy assessment even. And then just a few other gadgets I wanted to mention. Certainly Alexa, to help get the weather and know what to wear for the day, things like that. Siri, if you have an iPhone, can be helpful to dictate messages and set reminders for you. Dragon is a program for longer dictation if you like to write, but typing is difficult on a computer, for example. Most people know that smartwatches these days, such as the Apple Watch, has fall detection software in it, which is really important for safety. A natural gas alarm. So if your sense of smell is diminished, natural gas alarm can be very helpful if you use that type of fuel. And even just, wanted to throw on here for wallet cards. If you have difficulty with the fine motor of getting your credit card out of your wallet, just putting them in a zippered pouch like this may be easier as well. So in all these adaptations, there's a nice way to sort of try before you buy. In the area, Easter Seals has an assistive technology center that you can borrow equipment from. There are a lot of loan programs out there through the Masons, for example. Senior centers often have an equipment closet, things with, for example, a commode or a walker, sometimes even a hospital bed or bedside tray table. You might want to check with your local senior center. There's also a couple of websites in Massachusetts to help with equipment. Durable medical equipment, again, is that term for, commodes and walkers and things like that, shower chairs even. So check those websites out for what might be available if you're looking to try before you buy. And then just wanted to circle back. So how do you manage Parkinson's outside the clinic? Again, I want to emphasize that you need to find your supports. Humans by nature are truly interdependent. We need each other. Then embrace adaptations. As Ben Franklin says, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound in cure. And also manage your expectations. You may have to adapt how you think about things and what's really important. Whether a clean house is having every bit of dust up or whether it's just, easy to get around, things like that. And finally, follow joy. I think this is really important to know what your goal is, what gives you that energy, what gives you that spark to live a life that's meaningful to you. So I just wanted to close with two quotes that I think are pertinent here. The first, plan for what is difficult while it is easy, and what is great while it is small. And a goal without a plan is just a wish. So thank you very much for your attention. I am available to help you find resources, whether they be support groups, exercise groups, home assessments, therapists, all these things. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me via email or phone, and I'd be happy to help you. And now I'll turn it over to Karen. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Anne. First of all, I want to apologize. I don't have slides. I actually never present with slides, but I've also never presented where I don't see 50 squares in front of me. So you've got me. Thanks, Anne, for going first and for sort of setting the scene for me for the most important topics that I discuss with people. Planning for the future, building your support team, and thinking about the environment you're currently living in. The good news is I'm not going to repeat what Anne shared. I'm just going to take off from there and address my part of the planning puzzle. So I'm an aging life care manager. Well, I'm a social worker and an aging life care manager. And an aging life care manager is a profession where our social workers, nurses, PT and OT, we have We also have people who have been in healthcare or studied gerontology. And there are some people who've had the experience of caring for someone they love and found that it was very meaningful, and then learned a little bit more about the field. So a care manager is going to be doing everything from a one-time consultation to ongoing management of your needs. So people might come into my office to just discuss their current situation, what unmet needs they might have now, or what they want to do for planning for the future. And a care manager is going to educate people about the resources and the options in the community. Care manager is going to help people think about what would be appropriate for them. And in many cases, a care manager stays involved in people's lives over time to help them through transitions, to connect them to the services they need as needs arise. And for people who don't necessarily have a ready team of people, we will help as needed manage their medical care. Sometimes we're the point person, we're connecting to their medical providers, other resources in the community, and we are making sure that the care that they need is being followed through. Okay, so I like to say there are two kinds of people out there in the world. From my perspective, there are lots of different people, but they're the people who like to plan, and they're the people who would prefer to wait for a crisis and then respond to it. So I'm not going to judge if you're one or the other, but I just wanted to point out that we don't always know when a crisis is going to happen. So it might be helpful to know what you're going to be doing next. However, sometimes you can plan for the future, educate yourself around the options, and think about what you'd like. But when the time comes, it's no longer appropriate. Many people plan because it makes them feel less anxious about the future. And my main point about planning is that when you plan, when you learn about your options, when you tell people your wishes, when you execute those wishes, you actually are taking control over your future. And if you don't, you often wind up leaving the decision-making and the burden of making things happen on others. When I think about building your team, I call it usually getting your ducks in a row. That's some of the ducks in the row are doing your estate planning. I always tell people that if you've already done estate planning and you feel good about it, that's great, but you should have it looked at by an elder law attorney, because an elder law attorney is going to be someone who's going to be much more conscious of planning for people who either have chronic illnesses or who are aging and are going to need to do planning based on their finances and possibly asset protection in the future. So in your estate plan, which most of you probably know, you want to have a healthcare proxy, you want to have a power of attorney, you want to think about providing the person who's your healthcare proxy with something called a MOLT. For some of you who don't know, a MOLT is a Massachusetts document that helps you and your medical team think about what you'd like to happen, your advanced planning. In Massachusetts, a living will isn't a legal document, but a MOLT is. And if you don't have one, you should ask your doctor about doing one with them. And then what you want to do with the MOLT is not only have it be in the places you get your medical care, but give it to your healthcare proxy, because it's like a gift to your healthcare proxy. It is a roadmap for what your goals and hopes are and wishes for your future care. And sometimes people have a hard time choosing their healthcare proxy because it might feel like a burden. but really, if the healthcare proxy has your MOLT and you've had good conversations with them about your wishes, your healthcare proxy is in fact just following your wishes. I've worked with families where the healthcare proxy didn't know they were the healthcare proxy or the power of attorney. Although it's harder to do that because you need to sign it, but because it was too complicated, they didn't want, it could be in a family where they chose one adult child over another, and they didn't want to get into that conversation with their family, so it became a surprise during a crisis, which I don't recommend. It doesn't breed positive interaction. I work sometimes with people who, actually a lot with people who are what we call solo aging. People who aren't, who don't have a traditional set of supports around them. Either they don't have family, or they're estranged from family, or their family is at a distance. And the concern is, who's going to be there for me when I'm in need? So I've worked with attorneys who create something called a care committee. So a care committee is really your team for going forward, not necessarily for this minute, but for when you start to have needs and you start to need people to support you. And a care committee could be official. It could be a document that you have a lawyer write up. It could be unofficial, but where everyone knows what their role is. So in a care committee, you'd want to have possibly a trusted friend, potentially a lawyer, or a power of attorney, or someone who's engaged and knows your finances, who isn't necessarily your power of attorney. You might bring in a care manager. I'm part of 2 care committees at the moment, so that the other people on your team have someone to go to for advice, for education, and for support when they need to be making decisions. So care management is often a private pay service, and people will write it into their estate plans that they want the care manager to be paid to be part of the committee. It's important to have the committee, the unofficial group of people, whoever it is in your life, to be aware of what it is that you really want for your future, and to have a chance to talk with people about that, so that they don't feel like they're left in a lurch when their role begins, when they step in. I really love the first quote at the end of Anne's talk. Plan for what is difficult while it's easy. Do what is great while it's small. Planning, it is, the question I get asked most is, when do I need to move? And the answer I give is always before you know it, before you think it, maybe even before you feel like you're ready, because you want to move when you're at your best self, when you will be able to participate in the planning of the move, where you're going to move, and you have an opportunity to actually become part of a community when you are at your healthiest, best self. If you wait too long, then what happens is you don't get to participate always, or your choices are limited. I was planning on talking a little bit about services in the community and housing options. So I apologize if some of you already know these things, but I'm going to go through sort of the basics. So there's the idea of aging in place, which I think is kind of in vogue right now. So the idea is that you would stay in your current home, you would make adaptations so it would be safe. You would be able to engage services to come into your home. Private pay, home care. Maybe it's a companion. Maybe it's someone who's going to help with driving. It could be someone who's going to live in, if your home has room for that. And aging in place is a great plan for people when it's appropriate. So some of the things that you need to know about aging in place is that you need to have the money to do that. You need to have the money to make your home safe. You need to be able to pay for private care. And it could be a lot of private care. So the cost of private care at this moment is somewhere between $30 and $40 an hour. And you can't hire someone for an hour. You need to hire someone for around 3 or 4 hours at a time. So aging in place can be expensive. It's also, you're bringing in help, you're taking on managing that help, and you still have the responsibility for taking care of your home, whether it's a condo, a rental, or a house. I remember I was working with a couple, and the gentleman brought out a little spiral book, and I said, what is it? And he said, this is my army. I need this army of people. And it was like several pages long of the people it takes to keep his house going. He said, without this, I wouldn't be able to stay here. But when he moved, he was really happy to get rid of the book, because it was also a burden for them to have to engage and manage all these people to keep his house going. The other thing about aging in place is, and it depends on your personality, it can be very isolating. Sometimes you're in your home, and when you're more homebound, it's just you and your caregiver. And we all know that for those that don't particularly want to be all on their own, isolation can be very difficult on your mental health. It also is less stimulating. And for many people, it really just creates a scenario where they're always eating alone. It's very hard to socialize. People don't necessarily come in to your home regularly, although many people do have friends that filter through and family, but you're there. And for some people, that isolation is the reason why they might leave their home and seek out alternate housing. So, and alternate housing can mean lots of different things. So there are continuing care retirement communities in the area and all over the country, where you would have independent, assisted, and nursing home, although not all continuing care communities have all three. And they all have different personalities, so it's important to learn about the different ones in your community. You need a sizable amount of money to move into a continuing care community. If you have the finances to do that, buy-ins range from $400,000 to $1 million. You have the opportunity to potentially age in place within a community. There are also retirement communities where it's just a rental, and you would be paying for the apartment. You would have some meals included. There would be activities easily accessed within your community, and transportation out into the community. But if you needed care, you'd have to pay for it privately and manage it. And for some people, that works for a period of time, but it might mean another move as well. Assisted living has over time changed a bit. It used to be sort of like, I'm getting kind of tired cooking meals, I might need a little help, move into assisted living. Assisted livings are a bit more heavy on the people who need more help these days. Some of the communities say that they can care for you even as much care as you might get at a nursing home. I think it varies from assisted living to assisted living. Some people say to me, I can't afford assisted living. At least in the greater Boston area, there are programs to help low-income people actually access assisted living. Not all of the communities have it, but many do. And there's also something called a rest home, which is sort of in between, I call it no frills assisted living. It's a little bit less expensive than an assisted living, and it also it has subsidies. Almost all of them have some kind of a subsidy for low-income people. So there's a range of alternate housing. I've worked with many couples who are doing very advanced planning. They're thinking about their future. They're taking into account their financial situation, their chronic illnesses. They're taking into consideration whether they're, the idea of whether you're still engaged in the community that you live in and you don't want to move away from it at all. And for some people, making a move, knowing that it's going to work for the next however many years they can manage it, works for them. So people who are still engaged in their churches, synagogues, people who may be still working or working part-time or volunteering in the community, who still have a fair amount of either family or friends who want to really stay very close to the places in which they're engaged. They might want to downsize by just selling their home and moving into a rental or a small condo. Although I think moving into a rental really just changes the playing field in terms of responsibility. And they know that living in an apartment or a smaller home is maybe not going to last forever, but it's going to work for them for now. There's so many different options for housing, from aging in place to living in a retirement community with a range of services available. So I encourage people to be educated, to really access people in the community, professionals who know what's available. It always pains me when I meet up with people who've looked at 20 different assisted livings in the area, and I'm pretty sure that 18 of them might not even been appropriate, but they didn't know. So instead of recreating the wheel, it's always good to check in with someone, whether it's hiring a private care manager to help create the roadmap for you, or going to the senior center or the council on aging. Find someone who really knows what the resources are so that you can really focus on what's going to be most appropriate for you. And not because I'm really wanting to do this, but it just so happens that Anne just hit like the perfect quotes, and I'll end just as she did. A goal without a plan is just a wish. I really encourage people to learn about how to make their goal happen and to execute it, and to reach out for support to make it happen. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Anne and Karen, for both of those wonderful presentations. So now anyone in the audience who has any questions about either talks or combined questions, you can use the Q&A or the chat at the bottom, and we can give a few minutes for those to come in.
Can I add something while we're waiting?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I realized because I don't have slides, you don't get to see my contact information. So you can easily find me at JFNCS of Greater Boston. The program is Your Elder Experts. However, there is a national association called Aging Life Care Association, ALCA, ALCA, and on their website, there's a Find a Care Manager button, and you will find the care manager based either on zip code, town, and state, county, and you'll get the list of practitioners nearby. And if you're looking for someone out there and you're not sure, and you're looking for a personal referral, you can also reach out to me as well.
Great. Yeah. And anybody who signed up should have my email with the reminders for the Zoom meeting as well. So if there are questions after or needing more contact information, you can reach out directly as well. And then we can send you some resources. All right. So yes. And somebody also in the Q&A asked if it's possible to get a copy of the info. So we can send that along afterwards. And then a question for both of you that just came in as well is, can you explain the difference between a care manager and a case manager?
Sure. Anne, do you mind if I jump in? So it's really confusing, which is there are tons of case managers out there. And more recently, people have started to use care manager. So there's the professional care managers that do the work like I do, called aging life care managers, or sometimes still geriatric care manager. And so we are people, we're not, we're being hired by you. So we're not biased by any other sources. We don't take kickbacks from the referrals that we give people. We are solely on your side. And there are people out there who call themselves care managers who may only be representing places where they work for free, but they're representing the places that pay them for referrals. In general, when people call themselves case managers, they're people who are working for an insurance company. They're people working in a hospital. There are people, they're also caseworkers in the community. But if I were to focus on the case managers you meet out there, or they're often in the hospital and or insurance, they're answering to their employers. So a case manager from an insurance company is going to be representing the interest of the insurance company, hopefully you too, but there's both competing, as well as in a hospital setting. The case manager's job is often to get people out of the hospital, and they're having to work within their job description, which is working for the hospital. They're going to provide you with resources, but they're also they're on the hospital side in terms of certain policies and procedures. It's not to say that they're bad people at all. It's just that they're not working just for you. That's the basics. It's confusing, really confusing.
Thanks. And then another question about stairs and home techniques to use. So besides lighting stairs, is there a good color that's helpful for depth of field perception?
Yeah, you really want to look for something that has contrast, high contrast. So if it's dark stairs, I would go with like a yellow, bright yellow tape. If they're lighter stairs, maybe more like a red. And you can use, certainly there's tape you can get from Home Depot or places like that that have a grit in them to make it a little bit easier for that, not slipping. But as well, electrical tape, can have a contrasting color. That can be an easy solution as well. I also did see the comments about the, having a lot of information. I'm sorry for that. I mean, I hope it's helpful, and I'm happy to share my slides. Again, I would encourage you to talk to, individual occupational therapists, to meet with you personally to make sure that these will work for you before you spend money on them. And sometimes we can come up with other solutions, already in your home that don't cost anything. So we really try to cater to, all levels of all types of people, all situations in the work that we do. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I should also say this is being recorded, so we will be posting a link to this recording on our YouTube playlist for our Ask the Expert series. So that will be up next week for anybody who wants to go back and look at very specific points as well.
Great point. Thanks.
And then one question I had, Anne, I know exercise is always something that we talk about. And for you, what do you normally recommend? I know you touched on activity and the programs that you have, but what do you normally recommend to your patients?
Truly, I believe that whatever motivates people to keep moving. Certainly there are a lot of studies through Terry Ellis at Boston University to help, to prove that walking is an excellent exercise, and of course it is. A lot of studies on a lot of exercise, but when it all comes down to it, what makes you feel good, what makes you feel more able to function and face your day, what keeps you motivated, who teaches that you enjoy being with, that's the exercise you should do, is my opinion. Yeah.
Great. And let's see. So somebody else asked a follow-up question about the care manager. So they asked, as it applies to finding professionals like lawyers and financial advisors who are reliable and in tune with your values. If you could touch on that, Karen.
Sure. A lot of what I do during consultations is actually referring to these people. So elder law attorneys tend to be they have special education. So you can find an elder law attorney. There are national NAILA, but I'm not going to be able to tell you what NAILA stands for. But it is an organization that only people who have the necessary background education in elder law belong to. So you can, I encourage people to look at the lawyers' websites, because they'll tell you right away if they belong to NAILA and if they have a specialty in elder law. I have met so many people who, they go to their lawyer, it could be their cousin or a friend of the family who's always done the legal work for them, but it is so important to have it looked at by a specialist in this area, because you don't want to wind up in a situation where the trust that was created is not one that's going to work for you, or you've missed out on some kind of a benefit that you would otherwise be eligible for. And there are different kinds of financial planners out there. There's the planner who is investing your money and watching your portfolio and makes money for doing that, maybe a percentage every year or for every sale that goes on your behalf. And then there are the financial advisors who charge by the hour, and they're looking to help you around budgeting. They are not going to tell you exactly where to invest your money, but possibly how to be investing your money in terms of thinking about the future and access to your money. And so if you're looking for someone like that, accessing a care manager is also a really, this would be a way to get to people in the community who are trusted and knowledgeable.
Thanks. And then just another question for me, if there's one take-home point from each of you that you would want people to leave today knowing and being able to use in their everyday going forward, is there anything that you can point to, either a resource or just something that they can take back with them? We can start with Anne.
It's hard to pick just one.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's, I think the eyes have it is sort of, you know, the exercise, socialize, and ritualize, you know, just really mind, body, and spirit in terms of living well with the disease, I think can be really key. But yeah, there's a lot to, you know, embracing adaptations is, of course, is sort of my niche as an occupational therapist, trying to encourage people to make the changes while they are in control and to adapt to that new life and just, you know, keep the goals in mind. You know, what is quality of life? What is joy? That's key.
Okay, it's gonna be really hard. So maybe if I have more than one, I'll just say them quickly. I joke with Anne and with other people that I'm not an occupational therapist, but there is this one tool that I like to share with people, and Anne shared it. It's the little bed rail, and I shouldn't give out that information, but I do because I'm not an occupational therapist. But I think it's a game changer for many people. However, that's not my thing. So I really do believe it's talking with someone who's going to help you think about the future and arm you with the knowledge about options, and be able to either support you to make that happen or give you the roadmap to present to others who are going to help you do it. When Anne and I were talking about the presentation today, I was reminded that I worked with a family probably 20 years ago where the husband had Parkinson's, and you know, there were very few supports out there for people with Parkinson's 20 years ago. And there is just a wealth of support, education, adaptations that you can have. It is a different world, and I really encourage people to take advantage of it. I know that people listening right now are probably those people who are taking advantage of it. But what I've seen over time is folks who really understand the community and what it offers, the Parkinson's community, they're not as isolated, they're not alone, they're not ignorant about their choices. Having community is just so incredibly important.
Great, thanks. And then a couple more questions have come in. Would you be able to say again the form that you should be speaking with your doctors about?
It's called a MOLT, MOLST. Hopefully your doctors have them in their offices. You can also look it up online, and then you too will know what MOLST stands for. But basically, really, it's like the nitty-gritty details about care you might want. Really specific questions, and it's important to do it with your doctor so you understand exactly what the question's asking. And it's not written in stone. You can change it along the way.
Thanks. And then someone else asks, does insurance, Medicare, or long-term care assist with the expenses of any and all the case manager, housing, or other things that might come up?
So, you know, Medicare is basically going to pay for medical care in outpatient. It pays for, obviously, a majority of a hospitalization. Medicare is going to cover the visiting nurse if you're home and have a need after a discharge or a new need that the doctor prescribes. Medicare does not cover care management. There are some long-term care insurance policies that include care management. So if you have long-term care insurance, it's good to find that out. And in general, if you have long-term care insurance, and most people who have it don't know exactly what their benefit is, it's never too soon to actually know what it is, to know what triggers your benefit, to know what your daily benefit is, to know how long the benefit lasts, and and basically what the cap is, and to really know the process about how to get it going, because it's really complicated.
Mhm. Great. So I think at this point we're ending questions coming in, but I want to thank both of you again for taking the time on a Saturday morning to join us and present all of your expertise in these areas. And thanks to everybody who joined as well this morning. As we were saying before, it's been a lot of information thrown at everyone today, so it's so helpful, and we'll be able to upload a recording of this talk so that you can go back and look at specific details that were captured during this meeting. So thanks everyone again, and we'll be able to let you go out and enjoy the beautiful day today.
Thank
All
you so
right.
much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.